so very much, dear viewers, for being very faithful to this channel, CMTV and Crossviews especially. At this time, I want to begin with our guests, Mr. Efokwa John. You are the Vice Chair of the SDF for Boya Electoral Field, and maybe the Regional Secretary, Organizing Secretary for the Southwest. Now, before we come to the main issue that brought you here, to give us some infos that has been hiding for a very long time. Now, today, the 4th of November, makes 38 years since Ahmadou Ahidjo resigned as a president and gave power to his constitutional assistant, who is President Paul Biya today. What clue do you have about this?
Mr. Mambo, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come here and to talk to Cameroonians, since many of us are advocating for a better Cameroon. Let me go far back in 1982 when President Ahidjo at that time made his resignation. You remember very well much that Ahidjo has been our first president in this country when we had our independence in 1961. Ahidjo ruled from 1961 right up to 1982. If you make your mathematics there, you see that Ahidjo ruled for 22 years or more. So, 1982 was the beginning of Cameroon, the beginning of a new Cameroon, in the sense that Mr. Biya will ride this country for a better Cameroon, where Cameroonians will be able to enjoy themselves, get a lot of amenities. So, Mr. Biya, if you look at the time being that he has ruled Cameroonians from 1982 up to now, 1992, we're supposed to have another transition of power from Biya to Frundi. And I will tell you that from the time that Mr. Biya took power, for the first, let me say, the first decade or the first 10 years, it was not doing bad as such, even though we had the economic crisis that came barely after some few years when he took over. But again, in 1992, we were supposed to have the new beginning of Cameroon, whereby Mr. Frundi was supposed to be the president of this country. But if you look at it all, from that 1992, the whole thing was hijacked. Mr. Biya never wanted to give power, since Ahidjo resigned and gave him power in the sense that he would take the country to a certain level, and from that level he will give it to another Cameroonian, but he has decided to hold the country hostage.
Yes, we shall be getting to that. Just to make our viewers know that on Friday the 6th, we'll make President Paul Biya an added year into his regime from 6th of November 1982 to 6th of November 2020. And so he will be about 38 years on seats, and we shall be dissecting that. But I want us to focus on the resignation of Ahmadou Ahidjo. Now, at that time, you were still a very young boy. Now, what kind of euphoria did you have at that time? Were you aware of what was going on?
You know, I remember very well much that I was in primary school, I think class 3 in primary school, when Ahidjo took power in 1982.
Okay.
You know, as a young Cameroonian, I remember when Ahidjo and Biya came to Boya at the old presidency, which today they have abandoned. They don't care to know how it looks like. So we're in our uniforms to welcome the president and the outgoing president who resigned. Yeah. So it was, you know, as a young man, it was so exciting to see that we have a new leader, and Biya, you know, he was a young and handsome young man and so intelligent at that time. So I think it was, many Cameroonians was so much glamour to see that somebody like Bia could come up that has handled certain posts of responsibility, that he has been the Prime Minister, he has been Secretary of State.
Yes.
So, again, right up till when we had the 6 April coup, because we came to understand that Ahidjo was not in good health. That is why he had to give power to Mr. Bia. Yeah. So,
but during that time, so many people talk of a kind of panicking, given that the normal jingle, the normal news jingle on the state media took a very long time. Then suddenly the head of state came up and resigned. You as a young man at that time, did you experience that?
Yeah, I will tell you that, I remember that when at the time that Ahidjo resigned in that 1982, it was on the 4th of November.
Yes.
There was some panicking because we never thought that we will have a peaceful transition as Ahidjo has molded Bia, since Bia has worked with him into the system.
He molded him.
Yeah, so we thought that there could have been a problem, or it could have been a civil war. But fortunately for us, it was not like that. On the 6th of November in that 1982, it was announced that it is Bia that has taken power from Ahidjo. And I remember that many of us, my brothers, my sisters, my neighbors, and many of us came out and were hitting, jubilating, were hitting drums, Papa Pobia, oh yeah, Papa Pobia. It was so exciting. It was so exciting to see that, as young people, as we were growing as kids, we learned about Ahidjo, how he took Cameroon from the time of independence, and how he gave power to Mr. Bia. So that excitement was there. Excitement was there. It was marvelous at that time.
Okay, let me come to Pope Bertrand. President Ahmadou Ahidjo resigned on the 4th, and President Paul Bia was installed on the 6th of November 1982, just 2 days after. I'm sure you were not born by then, but I am sure history has it. But what's your take about this kind of transition? What's your take?
Mr. Moderator, from where I draw my curtains on this same matter is, this was during the Arab Spring that most countries in Africa were taking their president on coup d'etat before there could be a transition of that nature. But you see that some genuine politics was practiced in Cameroon, where power was given in a very fair term. So I want to really appreciate the president President Ahmadou Ahidjo of that time to have relinquished power in such a very calm, transparent atmosphere, and it sends a message to African leaders. It sends a message to African leaders, and I believe that other countries, maybe in West Africa, took that message seriously. But you see, countries of Sub-Saharan, Central Africa, and Francophone country, this message did not really play well in their mindset. Not going very far, Mr. Moderator, I want to say that President Ahmadou Ahidjo served this country for 25 years, 22 years as president, 22 years as president, 2 years as prime minister, and he worked 1 year in the internal organs of the country as I will be going. But notwithstanding, Mr. Moderator, there must be fouls in every government. Though in LOG, when somebody died, we always sing praises. But I, as an Anglophone, still hold the theory of assimilation, which this same President Ahmadou Ahidjo planted the seed and hand-over-powered, and we keep seeing the practice of the marginalization and the thwarting of the Constitution and other institutions. Mr. Moderator, let me learn. I'm coming back to your question. I wanted just to elaborate and then come back to answer you that for the first time when civilization was still far from Africa, Cameroon was practicing democracy. But with the involvement of time, we thought that by now we should be a better country in this practice of democracy.
We shall come to that on Friday. We shall be looking at the two regions. But now, I just want to get something. Some people have it that, okay, Ahmadou Ahidjo resigning, and 2 days after, President Paul Biya was installed. Maybe there was a kind of mafia, a kind of coup that wasn't revealed. And so that is why it was a kind of calmness, but a coup took place.
You know, there was one African Union meeting that I think Nkrumah took part, Ahidjo and some other leaders I can't play. And the speech that President Ahmadou Ahidjo delivered in that union, in that conference, did not play well with the colonial master France. You know, President Ahmadou Ahidjo is one of those persons that we should really look for a national day to mourn. I believe that he played a major role in the independence of La République du Cameroon, and also a key architect to the reunification of Cameroon. You know, with his party, it was his party who fought for the independence of La République du Cameroon. So when the colonial master saw it that the servant they put in place was no longer serving them, working according to their dictates. Of course, we all know the story that leans behind it, that he was calm, and he was calm due to his health condition, that he would not be able to administer his administrative functions. And due to this health challenge, he, being a good leader, a leader of goodwill, a servant leader, decided that in the interest of his people, in the interest of his country, if there is another gentleman who he knows, due to academical background and professional training, which he has passed on to President Paul Biya was able to pilot the affairs of Cameroon. And to make you to know that he was not biased, he was not tribalistic, and he did not have a greedy mindset to say that let me look for a brother from the north to give to pass power on to. He felt that Cameroon is one body and everybody can partake in the development of the country, and he gave out power to somebody from the from the center. Okay. So I think that for the transition, the date and the time did not really matter, but the motive and the intention of transferring power to another person was what really mattered in that case.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Afoko John, the regional secretary for the SDF for the Southwest region. Now, at least you were a young man at that time. Can you genuinely tell us the transition? There wasn't any panicking during that period?
No, as I earlier said, you know, when Ahidjo announced his resignation on that 4th of November, there was still so much worry with people. Okay. But I, for one, I came to understand that Ahidjo did that. He knew that he has grown somebody from the system. Okay. Okay? And that is why, because there was some contradiction during that period. From the information which I tried to gather during that period of that transition, you know, Ahidjo's wife thought that Samuel Eboa could beat the president of this country. You get me? But Ahidjo has had a question mark on Samuel Eboa because he has given certain responsibility to Samuel Eboa which he has not executed, right to his own place. So he thought that as somebody that has worked with Mr. Biya and as a young man and very intelligent at that time, he thought that Biya could be the better person to rule this country. Okay. And I think that he thought it's wise that giving Biya power would be better.
Okay. So now, looking at his ill health, he had to resign from power. Now, how do you look at his genuity, his sincerity, resigning from power because of ill health, and what we have today in Africa, whereby we have so many presidents? Some can't even move, some can't even talk, and so some can run their country, and their constitution say that if they are unable to do that, they should step down. How do you compare the two today?
Mr. Mambo, you see, it takes time and one, like Ahidjo, to take such a decision. Ahidjo knew that Cameroonians or Cameroon as a country matters most than him. You get me very well.
He put the country and the people first.
He put the country first before any other thing. And that is why he thought that with his in-health, he could not run the country well again. But I tell you, statistics have proven that Ahidjo was a better leader at that time.
How better?
How better? Because you see, Mr. Mambo, I think your father is still alive. He's not rather just being fortunate like me. My father used to tell us that in the days of Ahidjo, things were better. And sometimes I used to look at things in such a way that I always like to compare two things. If you have one thing, you will be unable to make comparison. He used to tell us that this will not time. This will not time. This phobia is picking them. But maybe it's fortunate for me that I was born at the time of Ahidjo. So maybe the younger generation who came from the 82, that falls in the hands of the Bia's children. I'm a child from Ahidjo. So he used to tell us that Ahidjo was that type that if he has a project somewhere in this country where he has given contracts, he makes sure he supervises the work at any time. He will surprise you at any time. He makes sure that that work or that job is being well done. You get me? But if you look at our man today,
we shall be coming to that. We shall be coming to that.
If you look at it all, and that is why comparisons comes in.
We shall be comparing the two. Okay, now I want to say that if you look at the time Ahidjo took over the country from independence, the country wasn't complicated. It was a large country. The population wasn't there. There was, things were to an extent very fine, not complicated as today. Don't you see that? If you bring Ahidjo today, I'm asking, do you see Ahmadou Ahidjo running the country of today?
Of course, Mr. Moderator, why will you ask such a question? Just like you said, on Friday, we will be coming very strong on the same topic, and I will give you the stretches of road that were constructed in the days of Ahidjo, and you compare what has been started today with the context of engineering as pay, because I want to tell you that major development took place. You see, there is something that becomes very difficult in administration when liberation comes, because before he took power, the French were ruling us directly. Now, for you to see that, for example, put yourself in this context, in this example context, that maybe a white man, we are here, three of us in a classroom, and we are being taught by a white. And then all of a sudden the white leaves, and you find another black skin man coming to teach us. In that context, most who is this black skin man? I have respect for white. I can't have respect for my own fellow black skin man. So that is to tell you that the administration in that time could be more difficult, because the white which we saw as our superior had left, and now we are seeing another black skin man which used to be a normal man around us, which we know he is from birth to who he is. Then we are trying to give him that confidence to rule us. I'm bringing this analysis to tell you how complicated it could be for him. But with the scheme of work he had, I want to tell you that you see, Limbe was developed by, was maybe developed or carved out or mapped out by President Ahmadou Ahidjo. Port Central was mapped out by President Ahmadou Ahidjo, and some other lucrative areas. Let me finish. Port Central was mapped out by President Ahmadou Ahidjo, and a lot of other things we saw just like my fellow panelists, you say, Mountain Hotel, President Ahmadou, you slept in the Mountain Hotel. So we saw that there was some infrastructural development that have taken place. The Tico Airport was already there. The Tico Wharf was booming at that time. And we saw that when and we also know, we can't deny that President Ahmadou Ahidjo was not a good scholar. And that was why when he saw in the likes of Bia, a well-balanced young man who we felt that could handle this country academically wise. And he gave this young man the confidence. That is why I tell you at times that, you see, being a leader is not about academic, but having the people in mind.
Okay. Let me come to something.
Mr. Mambo, let me land, please. May I land?
Yes, I don't want us to cross to the regime of President.
No, I'm not crossing. I'm trying to say here that you asked a question on the administrative context at that time. That's why I'm telling you that, you see, in every country, the people want development. They want social amenities. And when these things are there, the thing suppresses the people's demand. They make the people to live a life above 50%. And when you are living a life above 50%, it means you are at your comfort zone. You can manage any other crisis. What we have today in Cameroon as crisis is because we are living below poverty level, which is not even up to 30%, but I think it should be 15%. And that is why you see people can go wild and demand for things and other things.
Mr. Ahmadou Ahidjo, you have appreciated and so on. But if we look at Ahmadou Ahidjo, let's look at his regime and the Anglophone crisis of today. Do you see him and his regime being part of the Anglophone crisis of today?
Absolutely. You see, the Anglophone crisis did not start but today.
Okay.
It started far back.
When they went to Kumba.
When our people went to Kumba. That's when the Anglophone crisis started. Because the people concerned who were supposed to sit and lay down their worries for the constitution to govern them, they were manipulated by this same regime of Ahidjo, which he handed to Mr. Bia, because Mr. Bia was at that time.
Okay.
And I tell you, history tells us that in Delhi at that time, they started revolting. Because many things were not done rightly.
Okay, but now we understand if he started at Fumba, Ahidjo was there, our own people like Foncha, Muna, and the rest who went there. Now, because I want to look at something, we have appreciated how he ran the country and so on. So what do you think went wrong that is affecting the Anglophones today? Because I believe it was determined at that time.
I should be able to tell you this, that I remember, or if you could remember very well much, that I once told you that the Anglophones' problem is Anglophones.
Yeah.
Reason being that we are not united.
Okay.
We are not united in the sense that people always look for themselves. They don't look for the people.
Okay.
Individually, they look for themselves. Because if you go back to that Fumban conference, you will see that Foncha and Muna were the architects.
Okay.
And when Foncha and Muna were the architects, those that had the constructive ideas were left out. Like the Joas, the Endelis.
Okay.
They were not as useful as these two persons.
Okay, let me come to you, Pope Bertrand. Now, we have Ahidjo at that time, and that time had to speak a lot as far as the country Cameroon we have today, especially the Anglophone, the future of the Anglophones. Do you think that what we are blaming other parties today were caused by those who are on seat today?
Mr. Moderator, still on this topic, I want to say that these are some of the fouls that emanated from the President Ahidjo's government. You know, I've said it before and I will say it again that he was not well schooled. Yeah. Because of his loyalty, the French people passed him administrative duties, which he managed very well. What happened at Fumbang was, since it is often said that he who paid the piper dictate the tune, the French government knew that La République du Cameroon delegation that went to Fumbang needed a council of advisors. And the French government, some lawyers of white skin and white origin were empowering the Ahidjo's delegation that went to Fumbang. Now, just like my fellow panelist is painting the picture here, saying that the Anglophone are part of the Anglophone problem, because at first, even though it's an allegation, that still holds that Foncha was not an Anglophone. We are still to clarify that. But let me tell you that, Mr. Moderator, if I doubt you, I will clarify you. I take responsibility for what I say. So when we went to Fumbang, we had other well-schooled Anglophones like Dr. E.M. Endeli, Dr. Bernard Folong, Dr. Anamangu. This was to tell you that had it been we had harmonized ourselves, we could also constitute a commission that could advise us on the way forward. Because I remember when I read two political books that Anamangu has reiterated that he called Foncha on several occasions, advising him on how to go about this. But Foncha had his own mindset. He had his own mindset, you know, what they call evolution of power. A class 7 teacher who was about being a PM. You can do anything being a power monger at that dispensation. Mr. Moderator, now what happened at Fumbang was this. The constitution that was drafted or was adopted at Fumbang, Anglophones saw some likeness of being part of their brothers again due to this constitution. And these are some of the articles on the constitution that make Anglophone to feel as if they will be on a safe side. I will take an article, excuse me here, Jeff, you have to be clear on this, because these are some of the things that has been killing us for many years after the President Ahmadou Ahidjo, and President Paul Biya has inherited it, and it will still feel as if it is still being unsolved. And we all know that the President is in his third age, which means we will be looking for another leader to solve this problem. Let me go back by telling you that Article 5, Mr. Moderator, Article 5, 6, 15, 47 are some of the areas in the constitution that the Anglophones thought that this would be a better statehold with our brothers. What did Article 5 and 6 of the 1972 constitution at Fumbang said? It said that 5 and 6 would deprive the state from controlling over variety of institutions as such. Deprive the state from controlling over various institutions as such: administration, national defense, foreign affairs, higher education, and scientific research. You saw that these things that I've just listed here paint to the picture that these are one of the key issues that was raised that has reiterated, reivindicated the Anglophone problem, which all concern higher education. Because these were people, Anglophones are people who love schooling. They took part in the academic culture in Nigeria. Okay. And I want to, Mr. Moderator, I started 5 articles. No, we are focusing on, yes, we are focusing on Ahidjo. I want you to bring this point to determine my point of argument. Article 15 of the Constitution invests most powers in the hands of the President at the dispensation of the state. The President had the autonomy to declare the state a state of emergency at his will. That is to say that this is the area that President Ahmadou Ahidjo started violating the constitution of Fumbang, because immediately after the Fumbang, it was not up to 6 months when he created his government, and only one Anglophone was part of that government. I want to further expatiate on it, saying that